Hello everyone, this is your professor for the Econ 1301 class, Introduction to Economics. This is the very basic economics class that we start off with. It is actually a combination of both microeconomics and macroeconomics, but we start off with the very basics. And then you will have the option to take Econ 2301, which focuses more on the macro side, and then Econ 2302, which focuses on micro side. And these courses are offered in Collin College. So again, this is a very basic class. We don't expect you to know anything about economics in this class, but it is very important because you can relate to the market, the different topics that we're going to talk about. You can relate it to your personal life as well as to the society as a whole. So this course will be very helpful and beneficial for you all because it will help you to understand better how the market works, how the society works, and hopefully will help you to make good decisions in terms of business as well. So just to start off with a little bit about the class information. This class starts on July 10th and it ends on August 13th. Actually, this is a typo. I'm just fixing it right now. It ends on August 13th. It's 100% online class. So basically, you do not have to come in to the class or attend the class to attend lectures. I will be sending out video lectures to you every week, with the assigned lectures. Homeworks and exams will also be assigned to you over the email. So please be diligent on your email. Keep checking your emails every week. Make sure you get all the lectures. You can view the videos. And then also make sure you're taking the exams as well as submitting the assignments on time. This is very important. The official drop date for this class is July 25th, 2023. So if you feel that you're not comfortable or you're not doing well in this class, this is the time you may want to drop the class. Again, this is like a very concise class. We only have 5 weeks to cover a lot of materials. So sometimes it may become overwhelming. But again, remember, this is an online class. So you can just spend any time of your day to go over the lectures and understand or take the exams and assignments before the deadlines. So, as an introduction, my name is Nafis Nasim, and I will be your professor in this class. I completed my master's in finance from the University of Texas at Dallas in May 2012. I'm also working as a full time commercial lender at Incredible Bank. And I also teach in Collin College as well as Richmond College. So I'm teaching in both the colleges, and I've been doing that since 2019. So it's been almost five years that I've been doing this. If there's any questions, you can always email me. Again, there's a small typo here. I'm fixing it. It's nnasim@colleen.edu. I will try to respond to you within 24 hours. If there is any urgency, if you have any questions related to homework or exams, or even related to the video lectures, you can email me anytime. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, you have to send me an email, and then we can try to schedule something and meet up in the Spring Creek College campus. Okay. Now, the required textbook is A Citizen's Guide to Economics by Michael Kohik and Jim Richards, the second edition. I have provided you with the ISBN number. You can buy the ebook or you can buy the hard book from the Collin College bookstore. Um, One thing I do want to say is if you follow my lectures properly and the examples that I do in these online classes or in these video lectures, you should be well prepared for the homework and the exams. Now, if the book will be an additional supplement that will help you to prepare for exam and may provide additional guidance if you're confused. But again, I personally feel if you go over the video lectures and if you understand the examples in my video, you should be well prepared for the homeworks and exams because they're going to be very similar to what I have been doing. The syllabus has been posted on Canvas website. Please make sure you go and check the syllabus and understand most of the items there. It does talk about, what book we are going to cover. It gives you a weekly schedule, which is very, very important because it will give you the deadline when the homeworks are assigned, when the homeworks are due online. You need to submit it online. It will also tell you when the exams will open up on online, or when I will be sending you the exams, and when you have to turn in the exams to me. So it's very important you see the syllabus. The syllabus has this weekly schedule. It will explain you which lectures we are going to cover every week, and at the same time it will describe the different homeworks, the assignments, and the exams. So there will be three exams in this class: midterm 1, midterm 2, and midterm 3. None of these exams are cumulative, okay? So the midterm exams are not cumulative. If so, let's say the materials covered in midterm 3 will be everything after we finished midterm 2. So it's not cumulative, which is a good thing. The second thing is the homeworks will be assigned at the beginning of the week, and they will be usually due at the end of the week. Okay. Now, each of the midterm will be 25% of your grade. So when you add up the three midterms, that's like 75% of your grade. So 25 times 3 is 75% of your grade. Now, homeworks will be 20% of your grade. So that's 25 sorry, 75 plus 20, that's 95%. Now, this homework, there will be five homeworks. I think each of them will be 4% each. And then, basically, I computed under 20% category. Okay. And then finally, you have 5% for participation. I know this is an online class, but the way I will grade you is basically I will see who is submitting exams and assignments on time. If you're submitting exams and assignments on time or before deadline, you are getting full credit on that 5%. That's 5% of your grade. It can bump up your grade by, from B to A or C to B. So please make sure you submit your assignments and exams on time. Again, if you go to Canvas and log into Canvas and look at the syllabus, it will give you all the details. As discussed, classroom, this is an online class, so I do not get to see you face to face. But again, the way I will grade your participation is basically when you're submitting your exams and assignments. If you're late, you're not getting full 5% on this. Okay. So now I will start chapter 1, which is the basics of ideas of economics, and go from there. So chapter 1 of your book is the basic ideas of economics, and that's what we're going to discuss in this lecture. So we're going to start off with discussing what is economics, right? So this is the course, this is the basic study. So we want to know first, as a definition, what economics means. So economics basically studies the action of people as we conduct our daily lives, right? When we are living our own life, we have to make choices. We have to make some decisions in their everyday lives, and these decisions can be small, some can be very big, some can be repetitive. But all these are related to economics, and these are studied by economics. Okay, so like if you are what you are going to eat today for lunch, whether you're going to have pizza or whether you're going to have Chinese food, that's a decision you make, right? That's a choice you make. Then it can be a big decision as well, right? Like if you want to be a doctor when you graduate, or if you want to be an engineer. But that also has to do with economics. So these all decisions in economics are known as choices that we make. Okay. So when you study economics, the purpose of economics is to give you the knowledge and basis so that you can make the correct choices and the most rational and the most rational choice that will give you the most benefit. Okay, we have to make choices because we cannot have everything that we want. Okay, resources, which we will discuss in a bit, are limited in quantity, so we cannot have everything we want. If we want, we cannot have 20 cars, unless we're Bill Gates, right? So because we have limited resources, so that's why we have to make choices. We want to make the choice that is, we want to buy the car that is best suited for my needs. So economics will help me to make that decision. Economics analyzes the various ways that making decisions can be accomplished. Okay, so it helps us to analyze the cost, risk, and the benefits that we get from a decision or from a choice, and then based on that, we will decide which choice to take out. Now, the basic assumption in economics that people make is that when they are making a choice or when they are making a decision, they are rational, meaning they are logical and they use their brain to make that decision. They are not being illogical about it. Okay, so we get a little bit more into that. So what do we mean by rational decisions? So by rational, we mean that people plan their decisions or make their choices or think about their choices ahead of time. Okay, they will think over their decisions, assess the benefits, costs, and risk associated with it. So let's see, if you're trying to buy a car, you will see what are the benefits you will get, and at the same time, you will compare the benefits to the cost, the risk, as well as the uncertainty associated with this choice. And based on that, if you see the benefits outweigh your costs and risk, then you'll probably go with that choice. Okay, so the ultimate objective in economics when we are making a choice is to maximize your happiness or satisfaction or benefit. Okay, and in economics, that happiness or satisfaction is known as satisfaction. Okay, and when we say we maximize our satisfaction, what we do is we basically maximize the benefit that we get from the choice and reduce the costs and expenses to minimum. Okay, now we also understand that individuals will make rational decisions. So let's say if it's a rainy day, and you need to buy something for the rain, you'll buy an umbrella. You're not gonna buy flip flops. Okay, so that's a rational decision because on a rainy day you'll probably need an umbrella or you'll need a raincoat. Now, I also want to explain, we talk a lot that when we are making choices, we are buying goods and services. I want to explain, because this is a very introductory class, I want you to explain what goods and services are. So there are two categories of things that satisfy our wants and needs. So when we are making choices, we're basically meeting or satisfying our needs, but there are two things that meet those needs. One is a good, the other is a service. So what is a good? Goods are things that are produced. Okay, so anything that is tangible and that are produced and can be touched, those are goods. For example, cars, hamburgers, tables, laptops, home, anything you can touch. These are all, goods and they're produced ahead of time. Okay, now, what are services? Services are action produced, okay, and they're produced right at that moment. And these are usually cannot be seen in your cannot be touched, okay. So some of the examples of services are like medical services, oil change for your car. Like I'm teaching your economics class. That's a service I'm providing. Trash collection, hairstyling, childcare services. All these are actions that are produced, and these cannot be produced ahead of time. They're produced when you want it, it is produced right at that moment. So you need to understand and distinguish the difference between goods and services. As we were saying, we have to make choices to meet our wants because resources are limited. So, what are resources? Resources are basically are things that are used to produce the final goods and services, right? So, like the tables, chairs, cars, or hair care services, or medical services, these are goods and services. So the raw materials needed to produce these goods and services and other items that we're going to discuss is known as resources. Okay, they are the inputs into the production process to produce the final good and services. Now there are four types of resources needed to produce goods and services. One is the land. The first one is the land. Land basically includes all natural resources and raw materials. Okay, so if the shirt is your final product, then a land resource will be the cotton or silk. Okay, so that's a land resource. The income received for this resource is called rent. So whenever someone owns land and they get income for that resource, that income is called rent. Okay. The second type of resource is called labor, and it's very easy to understand. This is basically all the human work, the time, effort, and the talent that people give to create the or produce the good. That is labor. And the income received for this resource is called wage. So let's see if the good final good is the table. The carpenter is basically giving labor to prepare that table. He's assembling the table. He's cutting the wood using saw and everything. So that's labor. Okay. Now the third type of resource is called capital. So what is capital? There are two types of capitals, okay? One is financial capital and the other one is physical capital. Financial capital is basically the money you need to buy the resources, to buy land or to hire workers. That's financial capital. Now the other one is physical capital. Those are basically the tools and equipments and machinery needed to produce the good. So for instance, in order to make a table, we will need a saw to cut the table into the right shape. So the saw is the tool and that is a physical capital. So human-made goods that are used to produce goods and services. This is a capital. And the income received by capital is known as interest. Okay, so remember, land, the income received by land is rent, the income received by labor is called wage, and the income received by capital is called interest. Then finally, the last type of resource, and which is the most valuable and most important resource in a market economy, is called entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship basically includes human action to create goods and services and to set up and operate the process to do so. So basically an entrepreneur is the one who brings all the other resources together and comes up with the business idea to produce a good or service, hires all the other resources, and basically implements the idea to produce that good or service. Okay, so an entrepreneur will have three qualities. They will come up with the innovative idea, so they will decide what they want to produce, whether they want to produce a table, whether they want to produce laptops. So that's an idea the entrepreneur will come up. Then they will be the one who will take risk to implement the idea. Okay, so they will take the risk to implement the idea. They know this venture can be successful or it can be unsuccessful and can be a big risk to his career, right? But he will still take that risk. And finally, the entrepreneur will be the one who will be bringing all the other three resources, land, labor, and capital, together to assemble and combine everything to produce the final goods. Okay, so that's the entrepreneur. This is the most valuable type of resource in a market economy. And the payment that goes to an entrepreneur or the income that goes to an entrepreneur is called profit. Okay, so there are four types of resources: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs. These are inputs that go into the production process to produce the final good and services, and basically they are needed. And we all know that these are limited in quantity. So how are goods and services produced? Entrepreneur basically select the type and quantity of other resources into some processes that are then converted into the final goods or output. Okay, so when entrepreneurs are trying to produce the final goods and services, they are trying to achieve two things. The first one is efficiency. When we say they are trying to achieve efficiency, what it means is they want to use the minimum amount of resources and produce the maximum amount of final good and services or output. Okay, so again, if you look at the slide, it says produce the maximum quantity of goods or services at the lowest possible cost of inputs while minimizing waste. When you do that, you achieve efficiency. Okay, that basically increases your profit as well. And the other thing they strive for is always better technology, right? The application to improve the process to make it more efficient and productive. The more better technology you have, basically the more efficient the process will be. And you know, you will be able to improve your production process. We are also going to discuss what scarcity means because that's also a very common term in economics, but we already discussed a little bit about what scarcity means. Again, if you remember in the beginning of the lecture, I said, as humans, our wants or needs are unlimited. If we could have we would have like 100 houses, 100 cars, but in reality, that is not possible. We want a lot of things, but we are not able to get a lot of things. That is because the resources that are needed to make the goods and services are limited in quantity. And that condition is known as scarcity. So the limited availability of the resources is called scarcity in economics. Now, scarcity will always exist because resources are limited in quantity. And the fact that we are using up a lot of things. So we are going to face a lot of scarcity in near future, right? So as such, all wants cannot be satisfied at the same times, and hence we have to make choices. So the study of economics will help us to allocate the resources, these limited resources, the most efficient way, so we can make the correct choice and decision that will give us the maximum happiness. So the purpose of economics is basically once we study this course, it will help us to make sure that we allocate and distribute the resources for the proper for the production of goods and services that are in most demand and that will meet the needs of the people and make them most happy. That is the ultimate goal of economics. Okay, and we already do this when we manage our time in a day, right? We want to do the best thing possible for ourselves in a day. So, getting back, just as a recap, economics is basically the study of how individuals and society try to make the best use of the scarce resources available to them in order to meet the individual demand or society's demands and maximize their benefit or satisfaction. Now, we also know that people will make rational choices, they will think logically and make the right choices and select the choice that will maximize their benefit. Before they make a choice or before they make a decision, individuals and the society as a whole will gather and review all information related to the choice. They will perform a cost and benefit analysis and then make a decision. Now, this is very common in economics, and that's why we study economics. To understand the market, to understand how we can make clever decisions in our everyday life, and how the society as a whole or the economy as a whole can make decisions as a whole that will benefit most of the people in the society. We're going to talk about marginal cost and marginal benefit next. So we already know that when we make a choice, individuals or the society or the economy has to be rational. Now, another thing that we look into when we are making a choice is the marginal cost and marginal benefit. Any individual or any business or the society as a whole, when they're trying to make a decision and make a choice, they will look into the marginal cost and marginal benefit. Okay, and they will compare the marginal benefit to the marginal cost. So, what is the marginal benefit and what is the marginal cost? Marginal benefit is basically the benefit that you get by making one additional choice. Okay, so it is the extra benefit that you get by making one additional choice. Okay, so let's say you consume 3 bottles of Coke a day. Now you are going to consume the fourth bottle of Coke. So, what is the extra benefit that you will get from that extra bottle of Coke? That is your marginal benefit. Okay, and marginal cost is the same. It's the cost that is associated with that extra additional unit or the one additional unit. So again, if we consume 3 bottle cokes a day, and then we are consuming the fourth one, what is the cost of that extra fourth coke? That is called marginal cost. Okay, now the formula for marginal cost is given as the change in total cost divided by the change in output. And I'm going to do a quick example to explain how to calculate marginal cost and average cost, because these are very important in making decisions. Okay, but before I go on to that, the purpose of this is basically we compare marginal benefit to marginal cost when we are making a decision. And if the marginal benefit of a choice is greater than the marginal cost, we will go ahead and make that choice because we're getting more benefit than the cost for that one particular choice. So we will go ahead with that choice. Now, if the marginal benefit for that one choice is less than your marginal cost, then basically your cost is greater than your benefit. It does not maximize your happiness. So we will not undertake that choice. Okay. And finally, if marginal benefit is equals to your marginal cost. So if the benefit that you're receiving is equal to the cost that you're paying for that one choice, we will still make that position or decision. But that is the final point. After that, we will not consume any more cokes. So maybe if the cost and benefit are the same for the fourth coke, then we will stop at the fourth coke and not consume the fifth bottle of coke. So it's very important we compare marginal benefit and marginal cost when we are basically making a decision. So right now we're going to look into how we can calculate marginal cost, and give you an example. There will be a problem like this in your homework one, so make sure you understand it. Okay, so let's consider we have a shoe factory. Okay, so we have a shoe factory. Now basically, assume currently the factory is producing, and that's the output they're producing, is 1,000 shoes. Okay, and the cost, the total cost to produce these 1,000 shoes is $125,000. The total cost to produce this 1,000 shoes. Okay. Now let's say, in the future, after the marketing department sees that there's more demand for the shoes, the factory decides to produce more units in the output. In that case, in the future, the output, so this is future, they will produce 2,000 shoes. Okay, and the total cost to produce these 2,000 shoes is $175,000. Okay, so this information is given to you. Now my first question is, what is your current average cost? So what is average cost? Average cost is what is the cost to produce one unit of shoe, or what is the average or cost to produce one unit of shoes. So the way we do it is we just do total cost divided by output. Okay, so currently we are producing, the total cost is 125,000, right? And then we divide it by the total output right now is 1,000. So if we do that, the average cost per shoe is $125. So the cost to produce one shoe on average is $125. Okay. Now we're gonna see what's gonna happen to the average cost in the future. Same way we calculate average cost in the future is equals to total cost divided by output. So in the future, total cost is 175,000, right? And then they are producing 2,000 shoes. That's what's given here, right? So if we compute that, that is basically the average cost to produce 2,000 shoes, or the average cost to produce one shoe is $87.5. So if you see, when we are producing more shoes from $1,000 to 2,000 shoes, the average cost is going down from $125 to $87.5. Okay, so this is interesting. Why is the average cost going down as we are producing more shoes? The reason is marginal cost. So that's what we are going to look into right now. So after we look into the average cost currently and the average cost in the future, we are going to look into see, based on this information, how are we going to calculate the marginal cost. Okay, so let's do that now. I have to erase. I hope you already took note of that and you already understood what I did. But now I'm going to show you how we are going to compute the marginal cost. Okay, so marginal cost, again, we know Change in total cost divided by change in output. Okay. So when you are moving from 1,000 to 2,000 shoes, what's the change in cost? So the change in cost is 175,000 minus 125,000 divided by the change in output is 2,000 shoes minus 1,000 shoes, right? So we get 50,000 over 1,000, which is equals to $50. So what does this $50 mean? What do we mean by this $50? This $50 is your marginal cost. What it basically means is after 1,000 shoes. So you are producing 1,000 shoes at $125 per shoe. Now, after that, every shoe you produce is going to be $50. Okay, so the 1,001 shoe will be $50. 1,002 shoe will be $50. Okay, so every shoe will cost $50, and when you add that up, the total will go to 175. So because the cost has gone down per unit after 1,000 shoes, that's why the average cost also came down from 125 to 87.5 shoes. If you remember, we computed that, right? So this is very important. This is the cost. Marginal cost is this $50 is basically the cost to produce one unit of shoe after the 1,000 shoes. Hope that's clear to you guys, and it's very important you know and understand how we did this example. Okay, so now we are going to look into we have looked into marginal cost and marginal benefit. Now we are going to look into another analysis that we do when we make a choice or make a decision in economics, and that is called opportunity cost. So what is opportunity cost? Basically, when you have a lot of choices and you make a choice and give up the other choice, the benefit that you will forego of the next best alternative choice, that becomes your cost because you're not getting that benefit, and that cost is known as the opportunity cost. Okay, so in formal terms, when we make a decision or a choice, we give up others. The benefit that we could have obtained from the next best alternative choice is called the opportunity cost. Okay, so we have to understand what this means. This is very important in economics. Now, in accounting, we do not account for opportunity cost, but in economics, this is a very important thing when we are making a decision and we look into this opportunity cost to compare different choices. Okay, so let's just like do a very simple example first of all. Let's say for lunch, you have three choices today. Okay, for lunch, you have three choices today. So the first choice is you can have pizza, okay? And if you have pizza, the benefit you will get is let's say 10 utilities, okay? Then you can have a burger also. That's another choice. And if you eat burger, you're gonna get 7 utilities of benefit. And then let's say the last one is taco. And if you have taco, you're going to have a benefit of 5 utilities. Okay. So these are your three choices for lunch today. Now you do not have enough money to buy all three, so you have to buy the best one. And based on your economics knowledge, you will have to make a choice and select which one you want to go with. Now we learned that all individuals, businesses, and consumers are rational in the economic world. So based on that, we can see pizza gives us the most utilities. So that we are going to select that we are going to select pizza, okay, because that's going to be our choice. because this is giving us 10 utilities. So this is our choice. Okay, now what were the other two choices? We had burger for 7 utilities, and then we had taco for 5 utilities. Okay, now these are the choices that we are given up. These are the two choices that we are giving up, correct? We're giving up burger, we're giving up taco. But what is your opportunity cost? It is the benefit that we give up for the next best alternative. So if pizza was not your choice, what would be the choice you would make? You will probably go with burger, right? So your next best choice is burger. So that means your opportunity cost will be 7 utilities from burger. That is your opportunity cost, okay? So that is how we are going to look into opportunity cost. Okay, so hopefully you understood where we are getting that from. Now we wanted to do another example for opportunity cost. Actually a couple of examples, so we understand how this cost is related to decision making. So for instance, in the U.S., with the same amount of resources, U.S. can produce, let's say the country U.S. can produce two goods. U.S. So US can produce two goods. Either with the same amount of resources, it can produce 25 tons of chicken, or because resources are limited, we cannot do both. They can produce either 25 tons of chicken or they can produce 50 tons of wheat. Okay, so that's what we have. So if US decides to produce chicken, let's say decide to produce 25 tons of chicken, what is the opportunity cost? What are they giving up? So in order to produce 25 tons of chicken, they are actually giving up 50 tons of wheat. So that, and if it's 1 ton for 1 ton of chicken, they are giving up 50 divided by 25, which is 2 tons of wheat. So that's the opportunity cost for, to produce 1 ton of chicken. The opportunity cost is we have to give up 2 tons of wheat because resources are limited. We cannot, get both products at the same time. We have to choose either chicken or wheat. So if we go with chicken, um, then we are giving up wheat, and in order to produce 1 ton of chicken in US, we have to give up 2 tons of wheat. That's the opportunity cost. So the 2 tons of wheat is the opportunity cost to produce 1 ton of chicken. Okay, so that's an example of opportunity cost as well. So I have given you two different types of examples, and then there's final example of opportunity cost. So here you add to another thing. In economics, we look into opportunity cost, we look into opportunity cost, which we figured out how to do, and then we also look into total cost, which is basically all your out of pocket expenses. So out of pocket expenses plus your opportunity cost. That is how you will calculate opportunity cost, the total cost, for when you make a decision. Okay, so let's say you want to go to a concert, okay, for 3 hours. You decide you will go to a concert for 3 hours, okay. Now, the ticket price to go to the concert is $50, the cost of the ticket. Then you will take an Uber there, and it will cost you $10 to go there. Okay? $10 is your overall cost. Now, if you did not go to the concert, you had two choices that you could have done if you did not go to the concert. You could have worked at Target for 2 hours, okay, and earned $10 per hour. That's your first choice. The second choice you have is you could have played online competition and you could have won $15 from that game. Okay, so that's the problem given to you. Now, the first question is what is your opportunity cost in this case? In this case, we are going with the concert. So we have selected that we are going to go with the concert because according to us, that is the one that is going to give us the most benefit or the maximum amount of benefit, right? So we are giving up two choices. We are not working in Target and we're not playing the online competition. But among the two, which one will give us the most benefit? From online competition, we can win $15. And by working in Target, we can get $10 an hour, but we can work for 2 hours, so we can get $20. If we compare 20 to 15, of course, Target is better. So our opportunity cost in this case will be $20 because that is the next best alternative, and we are giving up the benefit that we are getting from this next best alternative of Target. Okay, so because it's basically we're getting it 10 times 2, $10 per hour times 2 hours, that will give you $12 that we are giving up. And that is our next best alternative out of the two, out of the online competition and Target. The next best alternative is Target because we are getting $20 versus $15. So that is our opportunity cost. Now we want to find out total cost. What is the total cost of going to the concert? Remember, in economics, the formula to calculate total cost is all your out of pocket expenses plus your opportunity cost. So in order to go to the concert, your out of pocket cost is first one is your ticket price, which is $50. Then your Uber cost to go there is $10. And then finally your opportunity cost, which we just calculated, is $20. So the total cost to go to the concert is $80. If we add up all these numbers, we will end up with $80. Now we are not taking this $15 into account because this is not the benefit that we are giving up from the next best alternative. It is one of the choices, but it's not the next best alternative. So we do not take this into account in our consideration. We only take the one that has the highest value. Okay, so that is how we will calculate opportunity cost, and that is how we're going to calculate total cost in economics to make a decision. Going back, then we have another concept called trade-off. Okay, so trade-off is basically when you make a decision or when you make a choice in order to get higher benefit, you're ready to accept higher cost. So there's a trade-off you're making, right? You want to get higher benefit, and in return, you're ready to make the sacrifice to pay higher cost. So that is a trade-off. I'm getting higher benefit, but at the same time, I'm paying higher cost. So we are making a trade-off. Or another case of trade-off will be I want to pay low price. I want to pay a very reasonable price. And in order to do so, I'm ready to accept a lower benefit. That is also a trade-off. Because I'm paying low, I'm also getting low benefit. And I know this fact. So that's a trade-off. So trade-off is basically when we are making a choice. In order to get more benefit, we pay higher cost, or in order to get pay low cost, we are ready to accept low benefit. Next, we move on to another topic, and this is basically talks about the three different types of broad economic systems that are present in today's world. The first one is called traditional system. Traditional system is basically governed by, this is the economic system or in which resources are distributed and allocated and goods and services are produced based on ethics, beliefs, and different cultural values. Okay, now, you won't see such type of systems much in today's world, but there are some in like in rural areas in the developing countries, or even in the U.S. Maybe a good example would be the Mormons. They have their own cultures, they have their own beliefs, and they live their life and their conduct their business based on those cultural beliefs. So that's a traditional system, but it is very rare. And again, it's based on ethics, beliefs, and cultures and values. The next one we have is the command system. Command system is where the government basically controls the economy, and government has ownership of all the resources, land, labor, and capital. Everything is owned by the government. There is no entrepreneurs. There's no private entrepreneurs in a command economic system. They control how much will be produced. They control what type of goods and services will be produced. And they own all the resources and distribute the number of goods that each individual or each consumer will get. An example would be Cuba or North Korea for command system. And then finally, we have the most efficient type of market system, which is called the which is economic system, which is called the market system. And U.S. is a perfect example of the market system. In this type of economic system, basically demand and supply interact freely in the market. There is no entity or government does not come and intervene in the market directly. Buyers and sellers, they meet in the market or they can meet online, they can negotiate prices, and then they can decide whether to buy or whether to sell or not at a given price, at an agreed upon price. Okay, so that's market system. And government is there, but they're not there to intervene in the market. The government is there to facilitate the market. They're there to help the market. They will have very little influence in the economy as a whole. So that is market system, and this type of system is very efficient. So we need to know the three different types of economic systems. Okay. Then we go to the three basic economic questions. When we are producing goods and services, we should be able to answer these questions. Or the businesses, let's say I am involved in the production of laptops and I want to make laptops and sell it to the consumers. In order to do so, I must be able to answer these three basic questions. The first one is what to produce. This is a question that is answered by the buyers, right? If in the market you guys want laptops, but I am producing desktops, then it is a wrong judgment. I am making a wrong decision because nobody's going to buy my desktop when all the consumers want laptops. So if I see in the market people want laptops, I will engage myself in producing laptops. Okay, so buyers give these answers, and based on that, producers engage in the production of those goods and services. Okay, the second question is how to produce. So now, as a producer, as a business, I know that I have to make laptops, but then we have to find a way how we can make these laptops most efficiently so we can make the most money or most profit out of it. Okay, so they will hire skilled workers, they will buy the cheap materials, they will buy high quality materials and combine them everything together to produce the laptop so they can sell it at a price and make a profit. Okay, and finally, the next question to answer is for whom to produce. This means is since resources are limited, producers need to know what is the distribution method that should be used to distribute the goods among the consumers. Once I make the laptops, should I sell it online? Should I send it to Walmart and Best Buy to sell the laptops? Or should I go directly from home to home and sell the laptops? That's a question we need to be able to answer based on consumer demand as a business or as a producer. So Adam Smith, he was the first economics, and he was the one who came up with the concept of economics. He actually recommended and talked about free economy. He said that a free economy is most efficient where individuals can make their own decisions and resources and property are privately owned. There are two main concepts that he talked about. First one is invisible hands. What that means is producers and buyers will interact freely in the market without any intervention. So there's free forces acting between buyers and sellers. They negotiate, they decide upon a price, and then a transaction of goods and services take place. That's one. Number two is laissez-faire model. What this model says is under a free market economy, the government will have very little role. They will not interfere in the market, and they will basically be there to help the market to grow or to facilitate the market. So, and he said a competitive market is needed. A competition is very important in a market system to be more efficient. Uh, We also talk about private property right. Private property is the right of private person and firms to obtain, own, control, employ, dispose, and bequeath land, capital, or any other property. Basically, when an individual or group has personal right on a resource, with how they own it, control it, and employ it, that is known as private property rights. And basically, government cannot prevent that, and government actually must provide protection to provide these individual rights. Okay, this is very necessary in a market economy because we work, we save money to buy property, right? And we want to make sure we have rights to that property. The government, nobody can come and claim our property in a day, because we have spent a lot of effort, money, and investment on the property. So the government provides protection in different forms, and basically we have the right to that property. Okay. We're also going to talk about productive versus allocative efficiency. I know we talked a little bit about efficiency, but we want to talk a little bit about that also. So what is allocative efficiency? Allocative efficiency is also known as economic efficiency, so they can be used interchangeably. But what it means is, with limited amount of input or resources, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur, you are able to produce the maximum quantity of output. And this maximum quantity of output will maximize consumer satisfaction or consumer utility. When all these three conditions are met, then we are said to have allocative efficiency. So with limited input, so the first one is resources are limited. Second one is output is maximized by the producer. And third one is consumer utility is maximized. When these three conditions are met, we are said to have allocative or economic efficiency. The next one is called productive efficiency. It's very similar to allocative efficiency, but it falls a little short of allocative efficiency. So under productive efficiency, we will have still limited amount of resources or input. Producers are still going to produce the maximum amount of output based on the limited amount of resources. However, we do not achieve maximum consumer utility, or we do not know if we achieve the maximum consumer utility. So that that happens, we have productive efficiency. So what it means is, under productive efficiency, the producers are completely efficient, yet the consumers are not, because they're not happy. Under allocative efficiency, both producers and buyers are happy, and their benefits are maximized. An example of productive efficiency would be, let's say, Lockheed Martin. They produce a lot of missiles, and with limited resources, they can produce a maximum quantity of missiles. But do people really want these missiles for their daily lives? There's not much demand for that missile. So consumer utility is not maximized, even though producers are producing it most efficiently. So that's productive efficiency. So obviously, allocative efficiency is much better than productive efficiency, and the ideal case scenario is allocative efficiency. We're now going to look into production possibility model. This is basically a graph, or diagram that illustrates the maximum potential output of a society at a point of time. So this is a graph, and I'll draw the graph shortly. This is a graph that shows all possible combination of two goods or services that it was possible to produce with limited amount of resources and with existing technology. So basically, we have two goods, let's say computers and clothing, and this graph will show is, with the limited amount of resources, what are the different combinations of clothing and computers we can produce at the maximum level, given the technology is constant and given at a particular point of time. Okay, so we make three assumptions when we look into this diagram. First, the society only produces two goods or two services. So we can only look at two goods at a time. We cannot look at two different goods or services. Okay, so we can only look at two goods: clothing, computer, or let's say food and crops, or timber and forest. So it can be two goods at a time. Okay. Second one is, the factors of production or the resources are fixed in quantity. They cannot be changed at that point of time. Okay, so that's the second assumption. And third assumption is technology. remains constant. So there's no improvement or there's no reduction in technology. Whatever the technology is, that's fixed. So this, when we look into a PPF, we have to keep these three assumptions into our in our. Okay, so let us look at a production possibility frontier, like how the diagram looks like and how we can interpret the production possibility model or frontier, and how we can use it for various types of analysis. So a production possibility frontier will look like, usually we'll have a shape like this. This is a graph with x-axis and y-axis. So we have the graph. Then it usually has this type of shape. And this is a PDF. Now it can have other kinds of shape. We are going to cover that shortly. But in general, most of the time, a PDF will have a shape like this. But it can take two different other forms of shape, which we will discuss shortly. Okay, now let's say on the y-axis, we have computers. Remember, we only have two goods that we assume. And on the x-axis, we have clothing. Okay, then in this PPF, we're going to look at different points. So let's say point A has 10, then we have point B, which is 8 and 4. Then we have point C, which is 5 and 8. Then we have point D, which is 10 here. Then let's say we have point E here, that's E, and that's 4, and then we have point F, which is 11. Okay, so we have all these different points in a production possibility frontier, and we want to know what these points represents, what this graph tells us, and what these different points in the graph tells us. So basically, first of all, this graph, on the y-axis we have computers and on the x-axis we have clothing. Remember the assumptions. The technology is constant and resources are fixed. The factors of production are fixed in quantity. So given that, it tells us how much computer, what is the combination, different combination of computer and clothings we can produce in an economy at a particular point of time, given we have fixed resources. Okay, so so let's say at point A, if the economy is at point A, so if the economy is at point A, then we have, if you look at the graph, we're going to have 10 computers and 0 clothing. Okay, now if you go to point B, point B has 8 computers and 4 clothes. Okay, then we go to point C, it has 5 computers and 8 clothes. Then we have point D, we have 0 computers and then 10 clothes. Then point E is 4 computers and 4 clothes. And then finally we have point F, which is 11 computers and 10 clothes. So from here we can see the different types of combination of computers and clothings we can have in an economy given the resources are fixed. We are having to choose between computers and clothing because remember resources are fixed in quantity. We don't have unlimited amount of resources or factors of production, so we cannot have unlimited amount of computers and clothing. We have to make choices of how much clothing we want to make and how much computers we want to make. And these are the different combinations of clothings and computers we can make in an economy depending on where the economy is operating. Like if it's at point A, then the economy is producing no clothing and it's producing 10 computers. Now, if it is at point C, the economy is producing 5 computers and then 8 clothings. So these are the different combinations we have, and we can have in a PPF. Okay. Now, the model diagram describes the various output combinations that are possible for, here it says pizza and sugar, but we are talking about computer and clothing. Okay. Now, there are different points that we have to understand in this graph. Okay. So I'm going to use a different color so it's easy to understand. Let's say I'm going to use red. So if we are on the curve, if we are any point on the curve, A, B, C, and D, all these points are productively efficient. A, B, C, D, productively efficient. Now, if you remember a little bit more ago, I just explained what productive efficiency is. It means basically with limited amount of resources or with small amount of resources or with the fixed amount of resources, we are able to produce the maximum amount of computer and clothing. Now, of course, we can have different combinations of computers and clothing, but that is the maximum combination of clothing and computer possible with that amount of resources, with that fixed amount of resources. That is the maximum amount of goods, these two goods that can be produced. So they A, B, C, and D are productively efficient. Okay. Now we also need to know what point E is. So any point inside the curve, in the curve, if there's any point inside the curve, including point E, which is inside the curve, is inefficient. So you need to understand this. Okay, anytime the economy is operating below the curve, that means they are not using the resources properly or efficiently, and that is why we have inefficiency in the economy. Now, there are two reasons for inefficiency, and we're going to look at it in the slide. So first reason for inefficiency is underemployment, and second reason is unemployment. So what does underemployment mean? Underemployment is when a resource is not efficiently and fully used. Example, when we have a manufacturing plant, let's say a whole room is a manufacturing plant, but we're only using half of the room to manufacturing product and we're not fully using its capacity. That is underemployment. When we do that, we are going to have inefficiency and we're going to be operating below the curve. Now, the other reason can be for inefficiency is unemployment of resources that are totally unused. Example includes some workers being unable to find job or a manufacturing plant is shut down. So if there are some labor or manufacturing workers that are not hired, then we are not maximizing the output needed. Okay, so that's why we're going to have a point below the curve such as E, which is 4 computers and 4 cloths, and this is not the maximum combination possible. This is inefficiency and there is room for improvement. We can employ more resources in order to increase it to maximum output. So point E is not productively efficient, it is inefficient. Okay, now that leaves us with one point, which is point F. Point F has 11 computers and 10 clothes. What does this point F means? This point F basically means unachievable at this time. Okay, so point F is unachievable. Given the amount of resources we have and the technology we have, we are unable to achieve this combination of computers and clothing at this point of time. Now, in the future, we can have more resources or we can have technological improvements so we can increase the quantity to this amount for computers and clothing. But right off at this moment, because it is above the curve, beyond the curve, it is unachievable. Again, the word is unachievable. If my handwriting is not right, it is unachievable, which is not possible at this point. Okay, because we don't have the enough resources or technology to produce that amount or that combination of computers and clothing. Now, one thing I want to mention is that even though points A, B, C, and D are productively efficient, we do not know if they are allocatively efficient, because we do not know if these points are maximizing the utility of the consumers. We don't have that information available to us. This graph only gives information from the supplier side and the production side. We don't have any information from the buyer or consumer side. So even though points A, B, C, and D are productively efficient, we don't know if they are allocatively efficient. So that information is not given to us. Okay, so again, this slide talks about point F. Any point outside the frontier describes an economy in which resources are unattainable with current technologies and current resources. Okay, now a PPF can shift, and that is known as frontier shift. So I'm just going to erase this and show what a shift means. Okay, so we have seen what the different points in a PPF means, and now we're going to look at how the PPF can shift. So let's say again, we have a PPF, okay, and this PPF can shift to the right, or this PPF can shift to the left. And when these happen, these are called frontier shift. So what is gonna cause the frontier to shift to the right? When we have economic growth, it is gonna the PPF is gonna shift to the right, because when there is an increase in the amount of resources, or when there is a technological improvement, we are able to produce higher combination of goods and services of these two goods. Let's say comps and clothing. It can be any goods actually, but that's what I'm using as an example. But with more resources, let's say we got more cotton now to produce clothes, and now we have more skilled workers for engineers to produce computers. So that's going to cause more resources, and hence we're going to be able to produce more clothes and computers, and the frontier is going to shift to the right. This is also known as economic growth. When the economy faces an economic growth, it's going to shift to the right. Now the opposite can also happen. The PPF can shift to the left. Okay, and what can cause the PPF to shift to the left? Decrease in resources, or when there's a technological blackout, that's going to cause the PPF to shift to the left, because we don't have enough resources to produce the maximum output, so it's going to shift to the left. Now, what events can cause decrease in resources? Events such as war, wildfire, or natural disaster, or a famine, or a COVID-19 pandemic. All these things basically destroyed resources, and as a result, the PPF will shift to the left, because now we have lesser amount of resources to produce goods and services. So the PPF curve will shift to the right. Okay, one more thing we also get information from the PPF is opportunity cost. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's look into that. Okay, so again, we're going to look into a PPF. Let's say we have, okay, again, we have computers here, and we have three different points. Okay, this one is, let's say, 8 and 5. A, point B, and point C. Three different points. Where if, let's say, the economy moves from point A to point B, so we are moving from this point to this point, then what is your opportunity cost? Okay, so let's look at that. Point A has 8 computers and 5 clothing, whereas point B has 6 computers and 6 clothing, right? So when we move from point A to point B, we have an increase in clothing, but what are we giving up? If you look at it, because we are producing one more cloth, we are decreasing our computer from 8 to 6. So what is the opportunity cost? The opportunity cost here in this case will be 8 minus 6, which is 2 computers. Right? So in order to move from point A to point B, the opportunity cost is 2 computers. Now again, let's say we move from point B to point C. Now point B has 6 computers and 6 clothing. And point C has 4 computers and 7 clothing. So then, in order to give up one clothing, or in order to get one additional cloth, we are giving up 6 minus 4 equals to 2 costs, which is your opportunity cost. Okay, so in this case, the opportunity cost is 2, but it doesn't mean that it will always be the same between the points. When we move from different points, it can vary. Okay, so that is another information we can get from a production possibility frontier. We can calculate the opportunity cost between the products and see, how much they are when we move from one point to another. Okay, then again, we can ask, is it a good move to move from point B to point C? Now, that information is not available to us because remember, the production possibility frontier only says that any point on the curve are productively efficient. So, from the production side, we know they're using all the limited resources to produce the maximum output, but we don't know if that is maximizing consumer satisfaction or utility. So, in this case, we are going to say we don't have that information and we don't know. Okay. One last thing that the PPS gives us information about is the shape of the PPF helps us to understand if the opportunity cost is increasing, decreasing, or if the opportunity cost is constant. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So remember when I started talking about PPF, I said the PPF can contain different shapes, and based on the shapes, you can tell how it will look like how the opportunity cost will go. So if we have a graph, so if we have a graph like this, which we saw, we have increasing opportunity cost, which means as we move along the curve, as we move from one point to another, here the opportunity cost will be rising, and that's why we have a shape like this. So if we get a PPF graph that has a shape like this, we can immediately say that it has an increasing opportunity cost. Okay, then a PPF can also look like this. In this case, we have a decreasing opportunity cost. Okay, so if we move from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, the opportunity cost every time will be going down. And that's why it's called decreasing opportunity cost. So if you look at the shape of if the PPF has a shape like this, you can say it has a decreasing opportunity cost. If the PPF has a shape like this, bulging outwards, that's increasing opportunity cost. Now the last one is if the PPF is a straight line like this, with no variation, not a curve, then when we move from one point to another, opportunity cost remains the same. So in that case, we are going to have constant opportunity cost. Okay, so looking at the shape of the curve, you can tell whether the opportunity cost is going to be increasing when we are moving between points, or it's going to be decreasing, or it's going to be constant. So this is increasing, this is decreasing, this is constant. So the PPF gives us a lot of information. From it, we can find out if the economy is productively efficient or if it is inefficient. We can see how the economy can improve or grow in the future to reach an unattainable point. We can look at the different types of combinations of goods that can be produced at a particular point of time. We also understand that the resources are fixed and there's a scarcity of resources and technology is fixed. We also can look at find out the opportunity cost when we move from different points. The only thing that we don't know from a PPF is basically the consumer utility satisfaction. We don't have that information, so we cannot say if a particular point is allocatively efficient or not. So that is the end of this chapter and this lecture as well. So we are going to end here. The next lecture will be on chapter 2 of your class, but for now this is it, the end of chapter 1 and lecture 1. Thank you very much, and I'll be back with lecture 2.